What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to show you how to wire a light bar on any vehicle. Alrighty guys, so the first thing I'll cover is what you'll need. So we've got a 22-inch light bar. It's bloody huge for this car, but we're going to try and squeeze it on there. You'll need some sort of bracket, so yours might be on a bull bar or something. We're just going to use a number plate bracket. I've got some 7mm and 10mm split tube. That's just what I use, so I recommend that. You'll need some 3-core wire. That's to run to the switch inside to isolate from high beam to when the light bar's on. I've got 6mm wire just for the power. Highly recommend with something of this size and up, or even driving lights 7-inch, using a maxi fuse. So that will come with its own soldering fuse holder. They allow a lot more airflow than just the crimp inline ones with the boot on the dust cap there, so they just melt with these heavy sort of lights. You'll need a set of good crimpers and just a set of side cutters. Right, so the next step here, guys, we're going to start running the wires for the Deutsch connector up here. So we'll start running that up to this location where the relay is going to go. So we'll take this panel off and cable tie it all up. Next step is to verify where your high beam trigger is coming from, because you do need that to isolate the light bar. So basically, the first thing I do is sort of check around the globe area. If you can't get to the back of the globe, or a plug, which the plug in these are down below. If you can't get to those, try for a fuse in the fuse box. If you can't get to that, the other sort of way to do it is to pop the cap off the back of the light and run a wire in. It's not the best way, but it does work. So I've found my high beam trigger here at the back of the light. So you can see that flicking on, off, yep, on, yep. So that's it there. Alright, so now we'll run in some 3mm cable into the inside. So I've routed the 3-core 3mm wire inside. So what that gives us is white, yellow and brown. So that'll be, white will be our earth, brown will be our high beam in, and yellow will be our high beam out to the relay. So what we've done there is routed it down through there. We're going to bring it around, and there's actually not much room on these little cars. So the relay, I'm going to bolt just underneath the headlight there, on top of the headlight, and just tuck it in sort of like that. And in the back of the headlight is our high beam plug, so that's what I'll have to tap into there. Alright, so we're just soldering up this high beam feed. Just got a really small soldering iron here, so hopefully it does the job. So we've got that high beam feed done down there. I've put the cap back on, wiring's all ran. So now what I'm going to do is join these two earth wires together. So what this will do is we'll put a crimp into the bottom of the relay, like so. Crimp that up. So that's going to give our 3-core an earth. So that'll give that switch that we've got here that we're going to put in the cab. That'll be able to turn on, because you need power and earth for that. So that'll illuminate when it's on, just to let you know that it is on. So 86 is our earth. Alright, and then that'll loop around to the top of the relay and just earth like that. So we're going to connect our switch's output. Another crimp. And then I'll go to 85. So all the headlight's doing is putting power into the cab and then coming back out through the switch and is triggering the relay. So we're going to put the battery feed on the back. So what that'll do is that gives the light bar power instead of having to come off the back of the headlight, because you'd melt the wiring if you did that. So you always need a relay, guys. So the next thing I'll do is the main wire coming up from the light bar itself. I'll earth the black straight to the battery, and the red will go to 87. On some relays you've got 87 and 87A. 87 will come on when the high beam comes on, and 87A will always stay on when the relay's off, so you don't want to connect it to that because your light bar would always be on. So we'll do that now. The last thing to connect up to this relay is power supply. So I've just got a 6mm cable here. I'm using a MTA maxi fuse holder. So what you do is slide the holder into there. Now your 2 pins, just crimp them on. So you crimp those on the other end and then solder up inside. And then they just slide up and in. I'll show you how that all works. So this holder, normally you'd bolt somewhere, but we do not have any room inside here. So I'll have to just sort of slide it down beside the battery. So let's connect that up. And I am using this really good quality cloth tape. Just makes everything nice and tidy and matches the factory harness. So it's sort of take a second glance to look if it's not factory wiring. And we'll just keep the dust and stuff out too. But my soldering iron is not big enough to do this, so I'm just going to heat this terminal up with a little blowtorch here, or soldering iron, and be able to feed some solder in. You do have to be careful on the back of these connectors. There's a retainer that goes into that plastic holder and keeps them in place. And you don't want to get solder in that, otherwise they won't stay in there. This fuse holder, I'll give you guys a bit of a close-up. So basically, we've got a little flat part there and that fits in there. So you slide in and you hear a click. Alright, and then once the other one's in, this part goes in the bottom. I won't push that all the way in there yet, but goes in like that, and that'll stop those pins from falling out in case they have a vibrator loose. So last thing to do here is to mount up the switch. The relay's all done, we've run it all into the cab, so whenever you run wires, always try and tie to existing looms away from any heat sources or anything like that so that they don't melt. So we've got a 16mm hole saw here, we're going to drill a hole into the dash, so let's do that now. I've got the wire run through the switch hole here now, so we'll cut that to length. And just make sure that when this wire has come around the back and up, that we don't hit any of the steering column parts that move, because we don't want any of this wiring to get tangled up. So I'm going to strip this insulation back. What we do is strip a little bit of insulation off to get the copper out exposed. Now these crimps aren't the normal size, they're a lot smaller to suit the smaller pins on this little switch. Crimp those in place. Alright, so on our switch we've got one goldish coloured terminal and the other two are silver. So the gold one is always on this sort of switch, is always earth. And then I just put the input from the high beam, which is brown, I put that into the middle. And then the output, yellow. So now what we should have is, so that's light bar on and light bar off. So when you do flick your high beams, that's on. And then if you don't want it to come on, if you're in a street or something, so I try and point that light downwards so it shines down at night. They are a pretty snug fit. Just sort of press it in with your palm. Look nice and neat there. Alright, so that's going to be all for today's video. Got the light bar all done. If you like the video, guys, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing and jump over to Instagram for an inside scoop for YouTube. Thanks for watching.